Well, YouTube is messing with me today. Let's see if it's going to work this time. I thought I was streaming for the last 20 minutes, and YouTube has got this new system in place where it shows the video playing, but nobody can see it. So, yeah, whoopsie. So what you've missed is I was just pulling the ID cooling cooler off of the Phanteks build. As you recall, I was building this as a birthday build for myself, and I decided I'd try that ID cooling cooler just to, have some new experience with some new things. When I go to experience new things, they're not always positive, and I guess that hurts some people's feelings, which is weird. Like my recent experience with AMD, both the streaming computer and Threadripper have been nothing but problems. I thought I fixed the streamer, but today it acted up again. And so that's what's motivating me to get this build done. This will be the new streamer. The AMD system I've got here, the 3900X, is going to be reformatted and reset and sold. I'm getting every AMD system I've got out of here. I'll probably keep one for testing, but for the most part, I don't, they're killing me on labor. They're just killing me. So for me personally, I'll be going with the Intel series for my choice. That's my choice. And for my customers, if they want me to build AMD, I will, of course. But I'm not going to twist their arm and try to convince them. I think Intel's just out of the box running, and AMD requires too much hand holding. And the people that whine about that need to have their diapers changed, because I'm in business. I'm not playing around. So it's important that I'm able to pay my rent at the end of the month. Not important to stay loyal to some small company. Everybody likes the small companies until they get big. That's the American way. You root for the underdog, and then the underdog gets big, and then you hate them. When Bill Gates was up against IBM, everybody loved Bill Gates. Now that he's successful, no, not so much. Jeff Bezos, a lot of people were rooting for Jeff Bezos in the early days. Amazon was losing money year after year after year. He took a beating from the press, and now he's the richest man on the planet. So I find it fascinating that people will forgive the errors and mistakes of the smaller company. They'll give them a pass. And for the big company that makes the smallest little error, they will call it out like it's the world coming to an end. I don't wish to involve myself in that dialogue. Those people need to get a life. If you care what CPU somebody else is running, seriously, learn to mind your own business, because it doesn't make any sense. Use the CPU you want to use, okay? I'm going to eat what I want for dinner. I'm not going to ask you for your approval. Don't tell me what to eat for dinner. I won't tell you what to eat for dinner. And if you want to use any CPU you want, any operating system you want, I don't care. What I do care about are my paying customers who keep me in business and my ability to stay in business. It's not about what's going along with the crowd or peer pressure. It's a serious life. Like, I don't want to, lose my house and live out on the street because I was being blindly loyal to the underdog. Not happening, not here. You can find that on other YouTube channels. You're not finding that here. So I've got the ID cooling cooler pulled off. Now this cooler, really just junk. It's something else I don't like. But again, I tried it. I tried all these AMD systems, lots of problems. I've tried a couple different coolers. Haven't found one I like yet. This is really a showpiece more than it is a cooler. If you have a 3 series or a 5 series Intel or Ryzen chip and you're looking for something for aesthetics, this will do the job. Anything beyond that is too much for this, in my opinion, and from my testing. What I'm going to do, so I've got that silver power supply down here. This is the fanless Silverstone power supply. And because we have a glass window here, I don't want to see the silver. So we're going to pull the power supply from the Cougar case and move it into here. And we're going to pull that Noctua tower cooler off and put it on there. I'm also going to borrow the 2080 Ti graphics card that was originally slated to go in here. Then I decided I want to put it in here. But since this isn't going to be done for a while, and I only have the one graphics card, I'm going to put it in here for now. I've got a 2080 coming, not a Ti, just a regular 2080, and then I'll swap it back out when that happens. And then this one, we'll get the Cougar power supply, the Cougar all-in-one cooler, and the 2080 Ti will go in there as well. And then both will be done, but I'm going to try and get this one done today. I'd really like to replace the streamer as quickly as I can because I'm at my wit's end with it. I'm done toying with an immature, spoiled brat. I'm done with it. I'm going to go with a mature, hardworking machine that doesn't need so much babying and hand holding. If you can't tell from my mood, I'm just so sick of it. With Threadripper, I ordered another motherboard. This time I'm trying to try ASRock, and it's a used board off Amazon Warehouse, which usually means, the stuff's like brand new. But it's got a good return policy. And the reason I did that was I'm trying to reduce how much money I'm losing on Threadripper. So I thought I'll put another $265 into it, which is about $50 to $75 off the price of the same board that's brand new. And we'll give that one more try. That's it. Then I'm done. You'll see mostly Intel here from that point forward. I will probably have an AMD now and again, but for the most part, I'm going to try and focus on where profits are and where my reputation doesn't get so potentially harmed. So with that, how is everybody? Good to see everybody in the chat. We've got 374 people watching live right now, and good to see everyone. Ronaldo Torres has contributed $10. He says, what's the sense of buying an AMD CPU with all those cores? And it's cheaper if it can't run stable because a motherboard's not working with them. My next build will be like what you built for Mike Smith. And Mike is very happy. We did have a video card issue there, but probably happened in shipping. But that's being replaced by Gigabyte through an RMA. I'll probably get it by the end of this week, I think. And again, I don't care what CPU you buy. If you want to buy AMD, go buy AMD. I don't care. I don't know how to stress that enough. Nor should you care what CPU other people buy. It's weird that you do, and people really, really have lost the art of minding their own business. That being said, as a real business owner, I want to share with you real business challenges. And your choice to be loyal to a company, if it means going out of business yourself, doesn't make you a very good business person. You've got to do what's profitable. You've got to do what doesn't keep calling you back for repairs over and over and over again. Not only is that very costly in your time, but it's also damaging to your reputation from a customer's perspective. So until AMD starts wrangling control of motherboard manufacturers and RAM manufacturers to get some standards isolated and defined, we'll revisit them after they've matured. Let's take a look at, see, I've got some settings here. This looks good. It looks good. Yeah, YouTube just reset everything on me, which is really frustrating. Narc says, I think you just had bad luck. Well, if you had bad luck with 2 or 3 systems, that's one thing. But every other AMD system, basically, out of 10, 5 have issues. That's not luck. That's some serious issues. That's too common to be just luck. And you cannot... So again, that's a real bad business attitude. If you can't own up to responsibility of your own actions and your own decisions, if you're so hard-headed and myopic that you cannot see the truth, you probably will not stay in business very long. You have to identify where your business is losing money. You've got to identify it quickly. You've got to plug that leak. It's not about luck. It's about making the right decisions to keep yourself in business. It's not about some religious-like loyalty to a manufacturer. If you do that, I have no sympathy for the state of your business when you are about to lose your home, because you absolutely refuse to acknowledge the reality of the business scenario that you have created for yourself through more of a religious fanaticism than of business acumen. So I don't have ill will towards these companies, regardless if they work out or they don't. I just simply avoid them. If the stove is hot and I touch it and I burn myself, I don't hate the stove. I just avoid touching it. I avoid it. And until AMD gets their issues worked out, we'll revisit them at some point in the future. Give it a couple years. I think they'll get there. In the meantime, that's just what I'm doing. I'm not telling you what to do, never have. And you use whatever chip you want. And when you want to call me to repair it, well, we can make arrangements. Mr. Blackspoon has contributed €2. He says, finally, I joined the live stream. €2 for a Coke. Right on. Thank you, Mr. Blackspoon. I appreciate that. Robert says, if AMD was so terrible, there wouldn't be a massive market shift. Again, it's myopic and blinding. Intel made, what, $19 billion on their last quarterly report? $19 billion? How much did AMD make? $2 billion. Oh, big shift. Oh no, they did almost 20% of Intel's revenue. Oh, shaking in my boots. It's amazing what people tell themselves to justify this religious cult-like behavior. And it's preposterous. I don't even know if you hear yourselves. It's not happening. Businesses are not buying Intel desktop AMD Ryzen desktop processors. It's just not happening in bulk for the most part. And corporate America wants to buy something. They buy it in huge, huge numbers. What some enthusiasts want to buy isn't going to pay the bills in the long run. There's just too few of them. So these enthusiasts think they're smarter than everybody else, and apparently you're going to have to be if you want your AMD system to work. Oh, I have plenty of bad things to say about Intel. Oh, believe me, they're not a perfect company, but they're not an evil company. Intel hasn't done anything to deserve the venom that you folks are spitting at them. They've done nothing wrong. They've done nothing wrong. So for you guys to attack Intel, that's completely unjustifiable, and you should mind your own business. Buy whatever chip you want to buy. The fact that you take it personally suggests to me that you're associating yourself with something you have no relationship to, and therefore have no business. If you want to purchase a Ford and I want to purchase a Chevy, what do you care? Why are you so passionate on this subject? Do you realize that's not mentally sane? That is not a normal human behavior, unless it's like a sports team. But you're acting like AMD is a football team, and somehow you're gonna, cheerlead for them. It's weird, man. You don't know how weird that really comes off as. It's just weird. It's not things regular people do. But don't let me stop you. You do what you want, but don't be shocked if you find yourself banned from here, because it's just stupid. It's just denying reality. The fact of the matter is, I have a business to run. And when you have a business to run that builds and sells computers, and you've been around for more than 5 years in business, and you want to tell me your thoughts, let's talk. But if you're some hobbyist sitting around watching YouTube videos all day, building your own machines and working on friends' computers, you have no idea. You have no idea what it takes to stay in business. It's a cutthroat industry. There's a lot of competition, and people are intolerant. So mistakes where you have to come back and adjust things because the RAM isn't fully compatible with the BIOS or has to be addressed. Customers don't care about that. They care that they were inconvenienced. They trusted you to build them a good system. If you got to come out and address problems, that in and of itself is enough to lose that customer. Customers are hard to get. So losing one is pretty bad, especially if it's no fault of your own. So I am not risking my business just to praise AMD. You guys got to be on drugs. John Panarelli with $20 contribution. Thank you, John. Jamie M with £5 says, I love the content. Here's £5 all the way from Scotland. Get yourself an iron brew. Michael Dane with $10 says, here's $10 towards the exorcism of Thready the Ripper. Have a great build, Carrie. Love watching your videos. Ollie with £5 says, Carrie's going to buy an ASRock board. The world truly has gone mad. So again, I guess you guys are new here. I've used ASRock's my system in the back, my work system in the back office is an ASRock Z470 Pro, Z370 Pro, sorry. I've used ASRock boards. Again, there's this weird sort of affiliation that you guys have with corporations, some of you, which is really weird, really, really weird. And I'm going to start, if these people are going to sit here and spam about a company like they work for them, they're going to not be allowed to participate here. What I'm trying to do here is share the real world of running a computer repair business. And if you can't accept that, if you can't swallow that because it's beyond your capability of understanding, or you simply refuse, and you want to stir up arguing and challenging me, start your own business, start doing what you say you're going to do, and let's check back in a couple of years and see if you're still in business. Until then, you have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to running a computer repair business and the cutthroat nature and the intolerance of the customers. It is brutal, and the profit margins are razor thin. This isn't about attacking any company. This is about staying in business. And if you can't appreciate that, you're in the wrong place, man. There's plenty of other YouTube channels you can go. Sharon Idle says ASRock Z470 boards are terrible. Yeah, mine's a 470 or 370? 370. I don't remember. It's in my back office. Thanks you guys for the contributions. I appreciate it. Do I need a hug? Yeah, I would like Lisa Sue from AMD to come over and apologize to me and to pay whatever it takes to get her employees to fix these computers and show me how they work. That's what I would like. And since that's probably never going to happen in my lifetime, I'm going to buy products where that's not necessary. This V says, but if there was no AMD, there'd be no competition and prices would not go down or develop quickly. Oh, I agree. I'm not suggesting AMD should go out of business. I'm just simply telling you I'm not recommending them to my customers anymore. And it'll probably be, I've got a few AMD builds in the wings, and once those are done, you probably won't see many more of them until they get their motherboard manufacturers and the RAM manufacturers on the same page. AMD's got to take control of that situation because it's reflective on their product. Their AMD CPU is no good without a good motherboard and good compatible RAM. And AMD's just like, that's your problem. That's their attitude. That's your problem. If their software doesn't install properly and it has to be extracted manually, they're doing a lot of things, in my opinion, that are not sustainable for a small business like myself to continually have to go after and support. So until that changes, I'll keep an open mind with AMD, but they got some catching up to do with their graphics cards. They've got catching up to do with the support requirements on motherboards and RAM. And until they get that done, I'm going to keep moving in a profitable direction. And when AMD wants to join me on that, I'd be very interested in taking another look whenever and if ever AMD gets to that. It's unfortunate. It's not what I wanted. I wouldn't have put the money into these systems if I thought I was wasting my money. I gave them a fair try. And no matter what you say, it's not going to make me like it. If I feed you something that you don't like to eat, no matter what I tell you, isn't going to make that taste any better. Now, if you paid for that with your own money and you waited for it and you had to send it back 2 or 3 times because it wasn't right, and it's still no good, there's nothing anybody that will tell you that's going to change your mind to make it taste better. You need to accept that. All right, let's get the power supply out of here. Get this disconnected here and up here. When money gets involved, when reputations get damaged through the actions of other companies that you have no control over, but your customers can't tell the difference. It all looks like you to them. Puts me in a pretty bad mood. So, but this will be good for me today because I know this is going to be a great system. This is going to be a great system. I know they're just going to work. I'm not going to have to fidget and baby them and just touch them right and configure the BIOS and put my memory timings in by hand and do all these other ridiculous nonsense things that all these AMD folks think is okay. They think that's acceptable. Well, because AMD's a little company, so it's okay that they make you go through all those extra steps because they're cheaper. Yeah, cheaper. So anyway, how's your day? Uh, all right, we're gonna get this. I had to tie these cables up because they were when I would move the computer around through everything that was going on here. The cables kept getting trapped underneath the computer, and then it wouldn't sit flat, and kind of a hassle to try and pick up the computer with two hands and use a third hand to move the cables out. So I just grabbed a little wire tie to tie them up and keep them out of the way. And let's get this out of here. So this went to the cooler. It's gonna go into a recycle bin. And let's get this untangled. One of the great things about the power supply shroud on this case design is I don't really have to use a modular power supply. I can just tuck in all the extra cables I don't need on the build, and makes the cable management a lot easier. One of the downsides on this build is it's just magnetic doors, case doors. And so if your cable management isn't flush against the motherboard tray, the door won't close. There's no like screw to secure it and force it closed. So I've got to minimize the cabling back here as much as possible. It's sort of the downside of this case. I personally think that this side of the case should have had some way to secure it. With the magnets on this side, it doesn't make any sense. Like I said, if the cable management isn't perfect, the case door won't stay closed. It may not even close at all. And there's very few reasons you would need to get to this side. Now, the other side being magnetized and swinging open, that side makes sense. This, not so much. This should have been a metal panel. Because is it metal or is it glass? It's been a while since I took it apart. This should be a metal panel, all black. And then this side should be glass. This should secure with screws in some way, and this side with magnets is fine. That's what I would change on it. But it is an attractive case, and those little issues are very minimal overall. The benefits of this case far outweigh the things I don't like. There's more things I do like than things I don't. It's not perfect, but then again, what is? So I continue to have, high standards for the parts I use and recommend. And when it comes to picking parts for myself, this is what I wanted for me. Sometimes people say, hey, what would you buy for you? This is what I bought for me. Ooh, it's a lot lighter now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have to turn this case sideways to work on it. Or do I? Let me think about this one. Let's move this over here a little bit. I don't like my sticker there. Let's take that off. I think my sticker's ruining it. It's ruining the look. It's a good sticker. Put it in there good. Come on now. See, when you buy my case badge, even the sticky tape is quality. Well, I thought I was just going to peel off, but it's on there good. I'll get to it later. I don't like it there. I'm going to move it. Anyway, let's get the motherboard tray out, and we can pull the cooler off of here and the power supply out, which should be super easy. I still can't get over how easy this Conquer 2 case is to work on, and how much I've enjoyed it. You know, being able to make progress quickly is very motivating for me. Makes me want to do more. But when you work on the same thing over and over and over again, like this Threadripper, I just feel like I'm not making any progress. I get really discouraged, frustrated, and I need to move to something else. You know, I have to get to something where I'm getting some progress, or I just feel like, what's the point of this anymore? Just spinning wheels. So some of the psychology behind that, after you've, you know, I've worked on a lot of computers in my day, and if they all required that much time, well, probably wouldn't be in business. I'm sure I would have found a different career. All right, that should free us up, I think. Let's see. Still getting hung up on something somewhere. What is it? Oh, is it this cable right here? Where am I hung up on? Gotta be the audio cable. I did not take off the audio cable. Okay, how about now? No, still something else. We're up here. I can feel it, but I don't see it. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, I see it now. This cable's down here. Oh. Okay. It's another one of those situations where I need to have 3 hands. Let's see. Find another way to do this. The fan controller on the that front fan was kind of holding me up there. Now we should be free and clear. Hey, look at that. So where it gets a little tricky is sometimes these cables, they get snagged onto, corners or wire holes, wiring grommet holes, and it feels like, something's plugged in when in fact it's just the cable that's in there. But yeah, that's really cool. I really like that design. Okay, so with that part removed, there's a couple things we can do. One, of course, is I've got to get the power supply out of there. So let's just move this over here so you can see. And we'll bring this around like so. You can see the inside there is super easy to work on. Everything is available. And when I put the cooler on, I can put the cooler on up here at the top. It may even fit if I want to show it off vertically this way. I think that'll work as well. My plan was to put it on top as I would traditionally because I have so much room here to work. It just looks like a super easy job to do. The liquid cooler is absolutely and completely unnecessary. It's strictly for aesthetics, and it won't be a permanent cooling solution because all liquid coolers, they have an average lifespan of 4 to 6 years before the pump goes out or the fluid inside of them starts to go bad. And so generally, you will have to revisit and replace them an average of about 5 years. Whereas a tower air cooler, you'll do that once and you're done. Like you'll never need to replace it. So this is the EVGA 700 watt GD, 700 GD. And we're going to use this power supply. Got to get all the cables to one side of the case. There we go. There it is. And we're going to move that over into the Phanteks case right here. And just slide that in there. I might be a little off to the side for you guys to see this, but you can see I'm quickly running out of counter space here, and I'm just trying to get things done today. So just bear with me here for a moment, if you would, while I get this sorted. So the new power supply now in, and while I've got this out, I can go ahead and put the BXM power supply. In the meantime, the Silverstone, this fanless Silverstone power supply is very impressive. Didn't have any problems with it. Just the fact that it's silver. Anybody could obviously paint it, but I'm not going to go through that trouble. And we go back to time. So many things to do. I just don't have time. And great if you're a hobbyist. Great if you're in a business where you're making a ton of money in exchange for your labor. In general, that does not apply to computer repair, because the cost of replacing starts to interfere with your ability to make a lot of money on a repair. When somebody says, hey, I could buy a new one for less than what you want to charge me, there's obviously a cap to how much money you can make because of that. So I'm just trying to take these old cooler parts and move them out of the way. Just kind of keeping things together here, so I know which parts I need to keep. All right, there we go. There we go. Very good. Ooh, it is warm today. Very hot out. Yeah, that looks a lot better, and it's going to provide plenty of power for us for what we need it for. We're going to slide this back a little bit so I can hopefully give you a little better of an angle on the Cougar Conquer 2 build here. I got a couple more of these motherboards coming. I'm really impressed with how well the 10700K works with this board, with this configuration. So I'm going to build a couple more of these. And looking at processor prices right now, the the 10700 is really a good price. It's like $409 right now for a 10700K, and they're available. And the 9700K is right around the same. I'm sorry, the 9900K is like around the same amount of money. So I don't know why you'd buy the 9900K anymore. The 9700K is a really good price, I think, at like $350 if you don't need the hyper threading, and most of us home users don't. Most business users don't either. I wouldn't notice a difference. But the difference between 350 and 409, I mean, we'll just go for the 10700K. That's what I'm saying. It just makes sense. Patrick Russos contributed $5. He says, "Thanks, Carrie, for celebrating my 50th birthday with me." Is it your birthday today, Patrick? Happy birthday. 50 is a big one. They say once you get to 50, then each birthday you go backwards until you hit zero. Ollie with £5, he says, "I was referencing the ancient Cosmos 2 build video. I've had a good experience with ASRock boards in the past. All brands make good and crap stuff." Agreed, Ollie. Robert Rockin' Rob Radigan with $2 says, "Your multitasking abilities are astounding." Nice. When you're self-employed, man, you've got to like do 16 things at the same time. That's why I don't have time to handhold an individual system when I've got so many others waiting for their turn. And if one is constantly demanding more attention, you know, either I need to hire some really low-paid lackey to do it for me, or I need to just kind of stay away from that. And there's so much of it I can take before it gets me. So there's our new $180. I can't get over that $180 for that power supply, but it is, I suppose, 850 watt modular and 80 plus gold. Is it gold? 80 plus bronze. Bronze isn't great, but 80 plus nonetheless. I've never in my life used a Cougar branded power supply, but note that I called it branded. I'm certain Cougar does not make this power supply. I'm sure they're just putting their own color scheme and logo on it from some other manufacturer. And it'll be interesting, regardless of who makes it, to see how it holds up over time. See, I can stick to what I know and I can play it safe, and that's very profitable. But at the same time, if you do it for too long, business can get boring, and even your customers may feel like, I've eaten everything on the menu, you're not offering anything different or new, so we're going to go somewhere else because we want to try something different. So it's important, not only for my own curiosity, but just in general for business, to continue to explore what's available and reevaluate what you're offering to your clients. And in this instance, I'll make myself the guinea pig gladly on this whole configuration. I've had about a half a dozen people reach out to me and ask me if I will sell them this case, which is crazy. And it goes to show you, the people that say it's ugly and blah, 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 they're not buyers, right? So who cares? The people that are reaching out are not necessarily people who spoke in the chat room, who have ever spoken out necessarily. But when it came to how much do you want for that, they spoke out. So in business, it's all about staying in business. Ultimately, that's your end goal. It should be, unless you're just trying to have some sort of criminal opportunity where you make a lot of money for a short period of time and then you go hide somewhere and hope you're never caught. And hopefully you made enough that you won't need any more in the future. That doesn't sound very, very relaxing to me. So I always run my business I'm running a tight ship, but at the same time, I'm also trying to explore a little bit. And thankfully, the ability to share these experiences on YouTube are helping to pay for them, because otherwise, there's no way I would do stuff like this. There's absolutely no way I would put that kind of money into a curiosity, because the business simply doesn't make enough money to justify that. But by sharing it with you guys, making YouTube videos, having that extra revenue coming in, the support of the community, then it makes these experiments larger, right? So instead of just trying a different video card or trying a different chip, I get to try all of it. Different power supply, different cooler, completely different case. And what's interesting to me is that ultimately, as I was thinking about it, it's not adding that much to the cost. I mean, depending on your perspective, like that helicopter case from Thermaltake is $250. And you might think that's a lot, except that the N case M1, which is a little mini ITX build, that's what, $215 for a case this big. The Dan case, right, from forget the name of the company that's offering that, 360 mods or something. That's after shipping $245 for a little tiny mini ITX case. So here I'm getting this giant helicopter case for about the same price as a little mini ITX case. Doesn't seem so bad. Spending $180 on this over-the-top cooler I don't need, strictly because it looks cool, is only about $110 more than the Noctua air cooler we have in there now. So at the end of the day, how much more am I really spending? The power supply at 180, this one's modular, so it's going to be more money, versus the 700 watt power supply. This is 850. The 700 watt power supply from EVGA, non-modular, is only about, I'm gonna say that's about $100. So this isn't quite twice the price. And over the cost of the entire build, we're adding $200 to $300 to go with something extreme. Now, again, what value an individual sees in that will vary from one person to the next. And it's certainly not something the average customer is going to say, yeah, we'll spend an extra $200 or $300. We're already spending $1,200, so what's another $300? Typically, people don't say that. But, in reevaluating the expenses, it's actually not bad when you consider, it just depends on how you want to see it. How important are the looks to you? Because at the end of the day, regardless of this case, what's in it could be put in a 200R, right? I don't need the liquid cooler. I don't need this power supply. We're going for a look here. And sometimes things that look nicer cost more, especially in the automobile world. If they make it look like a sports car, it doesn't have to perform like one, Miata, Fiero, they can, insurance companies can say, well, it's a sports car because it's got 2 seats or whatever, and it looks fast. Looks fast doesn't usually sell well in the car world. The Dodge Prowler didn't do well. Was it Plymouth? Because they put an underpowered engine in it. It's a good looking, cool looking car, but completely underpowered. So people were paying extra because of the way the car looked, but they weren't getting a faster car. And that car's not made anymore. So, for people who care about the aesthetics, then to have something that's unique, that other people are not likely to have, sort of also becomes important as well. And in this instance, these kind of builds generally generate more viewers. People will watch those videos more than they'll watch a build in a 200R, regardless of what they pay for, regardless of what they buy, regardless if they think it's ugly or not, the video will get more views. So I'm not going to fight it. I'll build it. I just didn't think I was going to like it as much as I do. It's not my first aesthetic build. But there's something about this one that just kind of, I don't know, having it here in person, you just can't appreciate it unless you see it in person. I don't know what else to say. So here's our BXM 850 power supply. It's pretty chunky. Has that new power supply smell. Did they put a sticker over their logo? What? They didn't cover their logo? Unbelievable. Look at how customized. Look at the detail. And we'll just put that right down here. It doesn't feel like it's going all the way in. Doesn't really change much in the looks though, does it? Because you can't see the bottom. You just get this little bit of gold there, which, you know, kind of matches, I guess. It's a similar color. I don't know that it's identical. It's just not lined up correctly here, I guess. Let's loosen that one up a little bit. Loosen all these. There we go. That one started. Why is that not going in? Is that, you know what it may be? Maybe that this power supply doesn't offer that mounting point. I can't really see it that well. There it is. Okay. Is that not going in further? There it goes. All right. So the new power supply is in. And we can hook up the power supply power cables to the board. Since it's all one unit, we can hook that up right now. So we'll take this larger power supply. What do we have here? PCIe, that's for a video card. We have two 8-pin CPU power connectors. Excellent. Excellent. That keeps me happy. Look how easy this is. Look at how I have full access to everything. You know, these connectors up here that are always hard for me to get. You always see me struggle with those. And just look at how effortless this is. There's one. And these two should split. I like how I don't have to hold them together. They're like something's clicked. Oh, one slides into a slot and they hold together. So you don't have to hold them together like you've seen me do, struggling to keep them together where you're pushing them on in a tight, dark space. The space is not dark, it is not tight, and As you can tell, just by the speed at which I'm able to do this, and I don't have my glasses, I don't have a flashlight, I can see it. And there's two connectors. There's an 8-pin and there's a 4-pin here. And this one isn't lining up. So I'm going to grab the other one instead and see if I have better luck. Yep, easy. Not sure why the other one didn't line properly, but I can do the same thing with the motherboard power connector. We can run that through here. All right, and then we'll bring that up right about there and plug it straight onto the board. Clip always goes towards the outside edge. I was putting it on the other way, which it won't line up. And then kind of wiggle and push on it, and that clip should grab it so you can't pull that off. Now, I want to take this cooler off of here. That's our Noctua cooler. I'm real happy with this cooler. It's going to look great in the other system. I should have taken the fan off first. Too big of a hurry. I have so much work to do. And sometimes when I get into a hurry, I end up making mistakes that takes me longer than if I would have just slowed down. So there's our Noctua fan. I'll set that there. Okay, cooler, bracket. There we go. There are little spacers on here that have to come off. And that just slides out. And there's our back plate. I'm just going to move the back plate over to this Phanteks build. Put it all right back together. I'll apply new thermal compound, obviously. We'll clean up the thermal compound on the heatsink before we reapply it. I've already cleaned the CPU surface here on the Phanteks build. You can see we had real nice thermal coverage the way that I do it. You can look back and verify that, if the camera will focus, that between what's remaining on the surface of the heatsink and what's on the CPU, looks, I would almost say, perfect, if I don't injure myself from patting myself on the back. I'm going to grab a little zip tie and tie this cable up for right now to keep it out of our way, because I have found when I'm working on systems that these kind of things will get tangled up and will get caught underneath the case when you're moving it. So if I just grab a little wire tie just to temporarily hold it until we need it, and then I'm sure that the power supply comes with another PCIe cable so that we can power higher end graphics cards. I also have the riser cable, which somehow installs down here. Like it plugs in there, and then you would install it. Let me think, how does this install? You want to put our graphics card in like this. Think about how that's going to go in. Should be a way to get this vertical on there. Might have to look in the parts that came with the case. I've never done that before, so it'll be a new experience for me. Moving the graphics card from a position like this to a position like this. I just thought I'd take a look while I was in here. This is from Fractal Design. Now this one comes with the screws and everything. This one looks a little different. Might have to return this one. This one looks like it's straight. It doesn't bend at an upward angle. So it would require a completely different mounting technique. From what I'm gathering of, this is just first impressions. Just want to see how this is going to look. So in the box we have some screws, some instructions, and then there's our, yeah, that looks better. Glad I ordered them both. This should just secure down. Let's just try it. Let's just try it. I've never ever done this before. This is definitely nothing that any customer has ever asked me to do for them. This is like one of those kind of things that people do themselves, I guess. So it's kind of like a big extension cord for the socket that your graphics card plugs into. It's got a couple of mounting holes, as you can see. That's the same plug right there. And we should be able to just align this. It's got to go the right direction, so that this part will plug into the graphics PCIe slot, just like that. And that will hold it. And then this piece here will hopefully align with those holes, and they've given us standoffs. I don't think I need the standoffs because it's already raised. I think just the screws is all we need. I might have to use screws that came with the case because the threads may be different. Well, that looks pretty easy. I mean, that wasn't rocket science, was it? So let's skip the standoffs and see if it works. Let's see, let's bring this down a little bit. I'm hitting the top of the case with it. Let's see if that's the right thread or not. Wow. Was it really that easy? It really was that easy? Crazy. That's super, super easy. I don't see what the big deal is. Now I can put the graphics card in this way, and you can see the fans and everything. Never ever done that before, first time. And that was way, way too easy. And that was Fractal Design. And I guess I'm going to be returning this Thermaltake one unless it'll work in that helicopter case. So I'll wait till I get that case. I think that's coming in on Friday. And otherwise I can send it back. That's the good thing about Amazon. There's my instruction manual in case I want to read those. Since I've never done this before, I probably should read the manual on it. But yeah, it's a new experience. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So basically, if you want to visualize it, I think I have an old graphics card back here. I can sort of just put in there for just to kind of get a vision in my head. What do we have? We got something laying around. Oh, we got Mitch's old 770 here. I was holding on to it in case Mitch wanted it back, but no news is good news, I suppose. Mitch is not missing it. I think we put a 970 in there. There was some debate over which card was ultimately better. thought I'd wait to hear from Mitch, and I haven't heard anything. Yeah, it's an old GTX 770, but that'll give you an idea. It'll give all of us an idea. A little dusty. How that's going to look. Let's take these out of here. It's got a sliding catch on it, so that looks like it'll be easier to get to anyway. Then you'd have to slide it forward by hand. It doesn't do that on its own. It's not sitting correctly. It's sitting too far back. It's got to come forward more. So I think it's just not positioned. There is a second set of holes. Oh, no, there isn't. No, there isn't. There's a second hole right up front here. And it looks like, from what I can tell, I have to use the other position, but in doing so, I won't be able to secure the back of this back plate. So see, I knew that was too easy. And I couldn't find one that Cougar sells. If you guys have a link to the one Cougar sells, I'd appreciate seeing it, because I'm kind of mixing up brands here, and it should sort of conform to a universal fit, but they do give you two different mounting points, at least on the front. But it looks like I've got to use the one closest to the PCI Express slot. And this is why I dry fit things. Like I want to find this out now. I don't want to find it out 2 weeks from now, you know. So if we put that in there. Try this one more time. See, now the problem is I don't have any way to secure the back of it. But for now, just to dry fit it, is that going to line up properly this time? Boy, now it's almost like it's too far forward. I got one extreme to the other here. The hole closest to the PCI slot is brings the riser card too close. It's too bad they didn't make those slots, you know, that you could slide back and forth for different cases. But I suppose Thermaltake makes theirs for Thermaltake cases, and Phanteks makes theirs for certain Phanteks cases. But I couldn't find one from Cougar. Could not find it. They must make it. Oops. It's so close, though. Let's see what happens. It's pretty loose in there, so I can kind of wiggle it around a little bit and see if I can adjust it in. Yeah, it's still, you can see there's a gap right here. It's too far back. So this fractal, did I say Phanteks? This fractal design riser is not going to work on this build. All right. Well, I knew I was taking a chance when I ordered it that it may not fit. and it's not mission critical. And Cougar's got to make one. I no idea where to find it. Certainly couldn't find it at Amazon, or it's not listed properly. So I will put all this back. I may end up returning this as well, if that's the case, or maybe I'll get a fractal design case that I can use it on. Either way, we'll turn some lemons into lemonade on that one. I'll just set it over here, and I know I had that instruction bag with the screws. We'll keep that all together. All right, what's going on in the chat room here? All right, yeah, so I'm gonna take care of that. A little sad. It was so easy. It went on. It looked great, but a little problem there with the distance where they put those mounting points, which I guess is going to tie me to Cougar's product for that solution. But I do intend to find it, locate it, purchase it, and get it installed, because I've never done it before, and I think it's going to look fantastic. And it's definitely going to be a new experience for me, as this whole process has been so far. Even just seeing the different kinds of riser cards, very subtle differences. Phanteks doesn't have a 90-degree bend in it, which makes me wonder what he's supposed to do with it. But maybe they've got cases that have special designs in them to seat that in there vertically, so that you can have it oriented in the proper direction. I don't know. I haven't built in a Phanteks case in a long, long time. So that was all for nothing. It's not true. I mean, I learned now how that fits and what to look for. And, look, when you get up to bat and you've never been up to bat, don't expect to hit a home run. It's okay. Don't give up. It's no big deal. So now we've got the new power supply, as I mentioned. In there, we've got the Noctua cooler off of there. Let me clean the thermal compound off of the cooler. Off of the cooler? I mean off of the, all I got to do off the cooler and off of the CPU. This is the 10700K CPU, and very impressed with how well the CPU works. Very, very impressed. I've had very limited time with it, but we're off to the races. Like, we're off to a really good start with it. So I'll use just a paper towel to get the bulk of the thermal material off, and then I will use the Q-tip and rubbing alcohol to remove the residue. Where's my drink? KL says that piece is on Cougar's website. Yeah, I was hoping to get it from like Amazon or Newegg, but I couldn't find it there. Does anyone make an 850 watt power supply with an 8-pin and a 6-pin? Usually you get 2 6-pins that have an additional 2 pins you add optionally, so you can have a 6 and a 6, or an 8 and an 8, or a 6 and an 8, or an 8 and a 6. That's usually how they come. Of any power supply size over 600 watts typically. Oh, I missed some contributions. Let's give some shouts out here. Ash Patel with £1. Tom Jackson, with $7.77. He says, here's to our tuition to Holzman University of Hard Knocks. Shemp Asaurus has contributed 10 Canadian dollars. Thank you, Shemp. Rain One Full with 5 Canadian dollars says, it's my 39th birthday today, and where I work, we get the day off with pay. Thanks for the live stream on my birthday. Well, happy birthday, Ryan. Happy birthday. Happy 39th. I see good friend there, Marty OL in the chat, contributes $10, saying hello. Hey, Marty. Kenton Morton has contributed $5. He says, here you go. Here's a little help for the knowledge you give with bonus free PC builds. Right on. Thanks, Kenton. Paul Ware with $5 says, I'm waiting for it to open up and walk away like a transformer, but I like it. And Winston Anglu, joining us from Vancouver, Canada, says he's watching me all the time. It's 25 degrees Celsius in Vancouver, Canada, like the Philippines or Taiwan. I've never really thought about what the temperature was in the Philippines or Taiwan. I'm surprised it's aligning with Vancouver today, huh? I better pick this box up off the floor if I'm going to return this back to Amazon before Lyle eats it. All right, how are we on time? 4:45. All right, good. So this is the Cougar has given us a single Velcro wire management Velcro tie, and then 4 black screws for the power supply, which I'm reused off of the screws I'd already had. So those will be, this can just go over here, this pile. We're done with that. So it is my intent to put the Hellower liquid cooler on this. Wasn't my intent to do it today. So I think I want to focus on getting the Phanteks built done first. So for now, and bear with me as I keep moving projects back and forth, I'm going to put this back in and secure it so it won't roll out of there. And we'll come back to this another day to finish it up. But I'm not going to put the wiring and stuff back on it until all the other work is done first. And it'll make it super easy for me to just reach in and slide the tray out so I can get what I need to get quickly. I'm running into an obstacle here. What's happening? What am I hitting? Oh, there's a cable sticking out from the bottom. What cable is that? Oh, that's the power cable that lights up the RGB. Okay. Definitely don't want to force anything. It should just slide in effortlessly, just like it did. And then I'll put these 2 thumb screws in it to keep it from rolling out on its own. And we'll revisit this build here very soon. I really want to get this one done. It's been off to the side too long for my comfort. And even though I have some other work that is also waiting, this one's been waiting longer. So I just really want to get it done. Okay, so these are the modular cables that came with the BXM power supply. They don't give us a fancy bag or anything, I guess, which is fine with me. We'll put them up there so we don't get them confused with the modular cables that went with the Silverstone power supply, which I put over here. So we'll keep all this together. Super easy to start getting things mixed up. And of course, this power supply has no modular cables, and that makes life a lot easier as far as that goes. Planet Cryos has contributed $30. He says, for you, buddy. Hey, thank you, Planet Cryos. And yeah, that looks good. Now, what we're going to do is get the cooler installed here. So I'm going to get the rubbing alcohol and Q-tips out so we can clean both surfaces. Make sure that they're as clean and mirror-like as we can get them, and then reapply a thermal compound, and then hook up the cooler. With the cooler installed, then I can work on putting the graphics card in And we should be able to fire it up and start testing things. It should be pretty quick for us to get from where we are to where we need to be. There we go. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect. Anything that you do to clean off the old thermal material is going to be beneficial. But if you want to go to the level of detail of, making sure it's polished like a mirror, it probably isn't going to make much difference in reality. But if it makes your OCD feel better or whatever, that's okay too. And then same thing here with the surface of the CPU. Let's get that cleaned up. I always get the sides too. A lot of times the thermal material will get down into the sides of the CPU, and again, it probably doesn't really make any difference in the cooling. It's more of a looks thing for me. I wanted to try and replicate what it was like when it was brand new and installed the first time, but nobody's ever going to see it. Once that heatsink goes on top, nobody's going to see that. And if they did see it, they wouldn't know it wasn't from the current application and from the previous one. So when we're dealing with practicality, stuff like this isn't that important to get perfect. You just really want to get the majority of it off of there. And then make sure you give it enough time for the alcohol to evaporate, for that to be dry before we apply the new thermal material. We don't want to dilute it or affect its ability to transfer the heat by contaminating it. So we'll make sure that just sits for a minute to make sure it's good and dry. And in the meantime, I've got my nitrile glove and my Noctua NTH1 thermal paste. Now, whatever thermal paste you use is probably going to be fine. No matter how you choose to apply it, it'll probably be fine. You don't want to put on too little. You certainly don't want to put on too much. And so I go about it my way, which works for me. You go about whatever way works for you, whether it's the dropping a grain of rice-sized dot and squishing it down, or making a Z pattern or an X. Whatever gets the job done, man. At the end of the day, the number of degrees difference it could potentially make is 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. And if you care about 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, you're on the wrong channel. You're at the wrong channel. I consider that a disease. But for everybody else, this process is pretty easy. There's lots of different ways you can accomplish it. You don't need to have a lot of anxiety because other people do. It's contagious, infectious. And you'll see for yourself. Once you do it and have your own experience, you'll know the truth. So, all right. What else have we missed here? Antonio Kudo contributes $5, whatever R is. Greetings from Brazil. Do you know if a motherboard with only 2.5 gigabit works on a 1 gigabit switch? Yeah, it should. It should go up to 2.5 gigabit, not be only 2.5 gigabit. Ben Laird has contributed £2. Hey, thank you, Ben. Now, of course, I can't speak for all motherboard manufacturers and all LAN card manufacturers. It's my understanding that's how it should work. However, you can always reach out to the support forums of that motherboard manufacturer just to double check on that. Planet Kairos contributes $10 and says, have you ever worked with or tried the Corsair Graphite Series 780T case? It's a little pricey, but a load of room. I have it and like it, so I guess that counts. The problem with the big cases for me is shipping them. Like getting them packed up and shipped out is, it can often require 2 people. So the Cosmos 2 build I did Well, I could bring it up onto the counter when it was empty. I could not lift it once I had everything installed. And the owner of that computer and I together lifted it together. And thankfully, it's got those two handles on top. So I grabbed one side, he grabbed another, and together we brought it out to his car. He has a pickup truck, and we put it in the back in the bed of the pickup truck because it wasn't going to fit, by opening the door, it wasn't going to fit into the seat. So that's sort of the downside, right? Because of a lot of what I'm building, I'm shipping. And even if I was going to deliver it locally, I don't know that I could lift it and maneuver it without special dollies or furniture moving tools, which honestly, I have no interest in that. If the computer is still going to operate as fast as the mini ITX build that I can carry around in one hand, if it does everything that mini ITX build can do, I have a hard time justifying the amount of added work it does for me with regard to physical lifting and moving, unless there isn't, some added benefit that case brings. And for people like that, generally, that's something they do themselves. Like if somebody says, well, I've got 8 mechanical drives. That's pretty unusual today, unless all your drives are 10 years old, because drives today, you can pick up a single 16 terabyte drive. And then, of course, there are separate drive cages that you can have externally for that as well. So there's lots of different cases for lots of different people. And I don't recall if I've done a build in a 780T. I may have. It sounds really familiar to me. But I know I cringed having when that Be Quiet Pure Base 900 showed up. I was just loathing the day I had to bring that over to FedEx and pay them to pack it. Thankfully, that's all done, and that computer did arrive in Ohio, and the owner's very happy with it. Last I heard, it's running really good. My hair is all screwed up today. What's going on with my hair today? Just do this. Just give up on it, Carrie. Just give up. Uh, Farrell Sparky says, "What are you talking about? Paying that sweet 100 million for that nuclear reactor cooler for my PC was totally worth the cost to save a few degrees." Yeah. Yeah. I had an idea for a video when you drive into like Palm Springs, California. There's a wind farm there. Lots of uh, wind turbines everywhere. A sea of them. And I thought I would make a little commercial for the newest, latest, and greatest Noctua cooler. Uh, Bill says, Carrie, are the attachment pieces screws ready before you do the thermal paste? They will be. They will be. You jumping ahead of the class, or you? So the the bottom line is, before you put the thermal paste on, you want to make sure that you have the all the brackets in place. If you don't, it's not a big deal. You just have to put brackets on. It's just that when you put them on, you just want to be careful that you don't touch the thermal compound. It gets on your skin. It's hard to get off, and you want to avoid any contact with it if possible. It's probably not going to make any real world difference in actual cooling, but it's a good practice to follow. And what do we got going on here? Love this channel when you're pissed off with a product. Yeah, thanks. I'm sure that's good for my blood pressure. All right, so I guess I'm caught up here. Thanks, you guys, for all the contributions. Antonio, Ben, Farrell Sparky, Planet Cryos. Thank you guys so much for your recent contributions. I appreciate that. So anyway, we've got to put the brackets back on. I guess we can do that now. These go on the inside or the outside? I can't remember. I guess they go in the middle. So the Noctua mounting system is really, really good on this cooler. Whoops. Whoops. But there's still nothing holding that back plate in, so I'm going to just hold it with my hand to keep it from doing what it just did, which was it fell kind of inwards. And we can start these thumb screws out by hand. Here's one. There's another. Maybe. Now that should hold that back plate in for me. Then I can put these standoffs that just fell off right back on. And then the other bracket can go on, like so. And then I drop the other thumb screw. Where did it go? It's dark in there, so I can't see. I heard it thunk. I heard it like bounce on something, and then it kind of went plop, like it hit something hard. I don't know where it went. I'm sure it didn't go far. Nope. Is it on the floor? Did it land in your fur, Lyle? You taking it? Get my flashlight out. See if I can find it. Is there any AMD Ryzen certified RAM? Yeah, I think is it FlareX from G-Skill is one that's certified. I'm sure there's some others, and I know they charge more for it too. At least they used to. Where did my thumb screw go? Ah, fell around the back. Gotcha. That's all there is to that mounting system. Now the heatsink's just going to go right on top with the once we've applied thermal compound, and it'll secure down. I won't use the powered screwdriver to secure the heatsink. I busted off the heads of screws before doing that, so I won't do that anymore. I will use it to remove the screws. And as far as the screws on these particular brackets, and actually any of the brackets that I've worked on from Be Quiet or Scythe, they can be screwed down with a power driver. Just be careful that you're not cross-threading. So at least start them by hand. Make sure they're threaded right, and then you can tighten them down. My driver is a Milwaukee M4, and it's a lithium-ion battery that lasts a really long time. And it's got a clutch on it that turns itself off when it hits a certain clutch setting. In this case, my clutch setting is on 3. I build a lot of computers. And to avoid repetitive stress disorders like carpal tunnel and things like that, I use a power driver. Also because I'm a slacker. But besides that, it's really cool. So this is my driver. The bit is a 6-inch Phillips number 2, and then this is just a little bit magnetizer, and those are both sold separately. A driver like that with one battery and a charger should set you back about $140, $150. And if you're using it a lot, it's money well spent as far as I'm concerned. You know, before I put the heatsink on, I'm going to go ahead and hook up that 8-pin power cable for the CPU power. It'll be a lot easier for me to get to right now. So let's take care of that. We'll bring that connector up through here, like that. Now this motherboard does have that additional 4-pin CPU power cable, which is not necessary to use. It's really for overclockers. And I don't intend on overclocking the system. That other power supply spoiled me because now I have to hold these two pieces together to get them to connect onto that. Maybe I'll just do one and then the other. But let me do that. So if you don't intend on overclocking the system and you buy one of these motherboards that's built for overclockers, you'll find that it's got an additional CPU power connector for supplying extra voltage over and above what the CPU requires out of the box, dictated by the engineers. And I think the rest of these cables are for video cards. I think I have it, yeah, that's VGA, VGA. So this power supply does not give us that secondary, but again, we don't need it. We're not overclocking, so it's, if I had it, I would use it just because I had it, but I don't need it, and I won't miss it. And we'll just get the 24-pin motherboard power connector plugged in there. I will say EVGA, well, they do make a good power supply. They could make their connectors easier by having them connect together the way that the BXM power supply allowed the one connector to slide into the next one and it locked them together. I'm having to hold the two pieces together and push it out at the same time. And well, that I kind of complained about the price on that, but you are, it's a bit more thoughtful of a product. I don't know how reliable it is, but so far that one's off to a better start. But this one's also significantly cheaper. And this one's got a higher 80 plus rating too. This is 80 plus gold. That's only 80 plus bronze. Yeah, so I guess I can apply thermal compound now. Sure, why not? It's glove time. That was pretty good. Wipe off that excess from there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Take the glove off and get it in the trash before it gets that stuff all over the place. It's messy. Messy, messy. When I took the little cap off, I set the cap down onto the counter and it stuck. That stuff is so messy. Just wiping the bottom of the cap, look how much came off. And it just gets all over everything. So I'm going to put the cap on right away so it doesn't spill out of there for any reason. And then I'm going to wipe this, make an attempt to wipe this off my counter. Yeah, it came up. It's fine. It's still on my fingers, but come off in a couple days. A couple days of washing, come off. Set this down, and I'm going to lay the case down so I can secure the cooler. I have to lay it flat to do this, so you're not going to get much of a view here on this. I apologize for that, but I would hope when you install yours, you will do it the same way. It looks like this can go on this way or this way. I don't know that they necessarily recommend one direction over the other. Both sides seem equal. Let's see. And then I'm going to use the screwdriver that Scythe includes with their coolers to tighten the cooler down onto the brackets. You only want to get them started, and then you want to tighten each side equally. I was thinking, by plugging that 8-pin CPU power cable in, I'd do that before I put the heatsink on, but the heatsink is so much narrower than Scythe's that it really wouldn't have been a problem putting the 8-pin CPU power cable on after. I mean, I know that now. This is going to color match really nicely. See? And I can put the fan back on. That side's in. Can't really tell on this bottom. Is that right? I guess that's right. It's a little funky feeling. Funky feeling. Yeah, it feels like that needs to go down a little more. This one needs to go down one more, like that. Do I want to keep it that low? I'll raise it up. Let's raise it up one. It's easy to adjust. I like that. Yeah, that's much better. And then we'll just plug it into the motherboard here. All right, so I apologize that your view is probably not that great, but I either have too much light or not enough light. Now we can put the graphics card in. I've been waiting a long time to cut the tape on this box. The GeForce RTX 2080 Ti from EVGA was, I think, $1,149 plus your local state sales tax and a limit of 2 per household. Not a special price, no coupon needed, limit 2 per household. Who's ordering 4 of these? And why aren't you my friend? All right. So I've had this for a while. I've been waiting and waiting to cut the tape. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. There's a month's salary for some of us. Okay. Apparently the rest is just for looks. That's pretty heavy to be empty. You've got to remove the plastic from these cards. It's there to protect it during shipping. It even tells you if it'll focus on the you'll see that's going to require two 8-pin power connectors. It's pretty much going to pull, what is it, 75 watts through the PCI slot itself, and then another, what, 300 and something watts comes through two of those connectors. I can't remember what it is, but it's not going to draw that all the time, but it can potentially draw up to that amount with those connectors. So when you're picking a power supply, you got to keep that in mind. The more powerful the graphics card is, generally the more power it requires. One thing leads to the other. So you want to line the slot up with the graphics card before you try and force it down. It's got to line up properly first. So gently, wiggle the card around a little bit, push it this way if you need to. Once it starts to line up, it'll start to seat just about a quarter of an inch, and then okay, now I can apply some force, and it'll just sit right into that socket, and then the mechanism at the end, the latch, should grab onto the card and hold it. And that's it. There's two thumb screws that are going to go in to secure this, and those should be in the motherboard box. If I was a good tech and I didn't want to confuse other parts and other screws, I would have put them in the box, and here they are in the box. I like it when I do what I'm supposed to. Now these two thumb screws are going to help secure that card into position so it doesn't fall out of there. It's pretty heavy. And that it's kind of hard to get an angle on this case with this being pretty much right where we need to go with the driver. I think what I'm going to have to do is loosen that one so the card can move a little bit. Come on now. There it goes. Then I'm going to grab the VGA power cables, and I can bring them up a couple of different ways. I can remove this panel here if I want to bring them up that way. I should be able to. I can bring the cables in right through here, I guess will be the smartest way to do it. So I'll just look through this bundle of cables I've got back here and find the two. Well, it looks like we can feed both of them off of one, and this power supply would support then up to two of those graphics cards together in tandem. However, people generally don't do that anymore. Very few games support it. It's got a lot of issues. It was, putting multiple video cards together in SLI or Crossfire was kind of a thing, but now graphics cards are so fast, and very few games support dual graphics cards that fewer and fewer people are doing it. It's very, very expensive, as you can imagine, spending another $1,150 plus tax to buy another card and then not get double the performance, or even worse, game may not run properly at all, making your whole situation worse, not just financially. So that's kind of become a thing of the past because the performance of these cards, well, there's two reasons. One is the performance of the card, and the other is because the game manufacturers don't want to spend the time and money to pay the developers so that a very small minority of the gamers can benefit who would have that kind of money and configuration. And then every time they do an update, they got to fix it. It costs the company a lot of money, and it only benefits, when it works, a very small percentage of their customers. And beyond that, when it creates a problem for everybody else, and they have to go back and address it, at some point they go, you know what, this isn't worth it anymore. We're losing too much money on this. Let's focus on the majority and develop better games and better compatibility. I don't know. Something like that, I imagine, is what's going on over there. But now we should be able to plug this in and run some tests. Now, it's been a while since I last powered this on. As I recall, I did have Windows 10 on it. Kind of excited. This is exactly the way I want it now. Everything's black. We can run Prime 95, verify this cooler is going to be okay for us. If not, you know, I have plenty of other coolers to pick from. There is room up here. There is room up here to add a liquid cooler if I want to. I really don't want to, though. I want it built and be done. I don't want to have to, you know, revisit it in 4 years and replace the cooler. Keyboard and mouse. I need a keyboard and mouse. Plug the wireless dongle in there. Make sure this is turned on. Okay, guys, I think this is it. I think we're ready to find out if she's going to sink or swim. I really want my Go faster sticker off of there. I don't like the way that looks at all. I make these things too darn good. Need to grab like a plastic spudger tool or something to get that lifted off of there without scratching it. I can get my fingernail under it, but it just is on there really, really good. Well, let's just see if it works first. How about that? We'll turn this on. That fan's turning, that fan's turning, front fan is turning. Graphics card is lit up. Let's switch over to camera input 2 and see if we're getting any video out of it. Wow, this thing's whisper quiet. It's just shut itself off and turned itself back on again, I guess, as it's self-adjusting for everything. And then let's see what happens here. It's whisper quiet. I'm loving the quietness of the system. This is going to make a great streaming machine. I can tell already. If it powers on. Like if I get a video signal, which would be great if I would, if that would happen any day now, that would be good. I'm so impatient. I want to show you camera 1 that, you know, I'm still live here and you can see everything's powered on and we're just waiting for a power on self-test to occur. It's taking an awfully long time, which is a little worrying. I want to make sure my HDMI cable's plugged all the way in. So good there. Let me make sure. Oh, I'm not plugged into the video. Okay, so I was working earlier using my monitor that I use to watch the chat. And so the opposite end of the HDMI cable I'm using was plugged directly into my monitor's secondary input instead of the secondary input of the video capture card. I imagine that thing's probably booted up and waiting on me. So let me reach down here and, sorry, Lyle. Let's plug that in and see what happens now. Haha, what do you know? What do you know? You gotta plug the cables in, Carrie. Let's reboot it. I'm just kind of curious how long the boot time takes on this. Looks good. That looks real good. Let's grab, what do I want to grab? Grab an Ethernet cable so we can plug it into the network. Oh, I'm so happy to have this done. Okay. So hopefully we can get online with it. Oops, that's not what I wanted. We'll check for updates real quick. And while that's doing that, I'll grab the utilities flash drive. We'll plug that in to these front USB ports, make sure those are working. I see the hard drive light blinking on and off. I like how you can cover that up. It kind of surrounds the reset switch. We're going to grab those updates, which went awfully quick. And it says it's all updated. Let's go to the flash drive. And let's do Uncle Carrie's Windows 10 Optimizer. And let's grab from the PC testing software. We can look at the specs of the system. We'll copy 3D Mark. Let's do Cinebench. Don't I have R20 on there? Yeah, I have R20. Yeah, that ought to keep it happy. What about Crystal Dismark? We can check Crystal Dismark too. There we go. First, we'll do Uncle Carrie's Windows 10 Optimizer. Let's just get this thing optimized. It's quick. Access denied is normal. We're just turning indexing off. Frees up some drive space. And it should want to reboot. Yes. See how long the reboot takes now. So far, so good. Wow, this thing's quiet. I was a little afraid given the 2070 Super I've got is pretty loud when I fire up the streamer. This RTX 2080 Ti is not loud at all. Even when I fire it up, it doesn't wind the fans up to 110% like the other one does. So that's a relief. See, I don't want that. I don't want that. And so what are we running on the system? Just as a reminder, the system is made up of the following hardware. We have an Intel Core i9 9900KS. The KS processor isn't manufactured anymore, so if you can find one, it's probably between $1,500 and $2,000. Originally, it sold for, I want to say, $600, $629, and that makes it pretty special in that it's a very limited edition. You'll see it's running at 5 gigahertz, and it does that on all the cores. For the main board, it's a Gigabyte Z390M Gaming. It's a micro ATX board, and this is a micro ATX case. For memory, we're using that G.Skill Royal Z Trident RAM RGB, and we're running it. Right now, I don't believe XMP is turned on. We can turn that on. We'll go into the BIOS, and speaking of the BIOS, what version? F9G. Let's see if there's a newer version of BIOS. The way I'm going to check that, well, first of all, let's go ahead and grab the new Edge. Just run that. Ooh, this thing's moving. I didn't have to go into the BIOS and fidget with anything. I didn't have to download any special software. It just works out of the box. All right, let's see. Let's make a few changes. We'll go to settings. On startup, I want it to open a specific page, which will be, for me, I prefer google.com because I usually just want to search. So that's good there. And with regards to the search engine, address bar search right here, change that to Google. And there's nothing to say. We should be able to just close it and reopen it, and it should work. Now, I type in the make of the motherboard, which, as I mentioned, is a Z390M Gaming CF. So we'll just type in Z390 Gaming CF. It should pull up Gigabyte's website. It does. Oh, that's the wrong board. That's a Gaming X. But I forgot the M, didn't I? Z390M. That'll make a difference in our search results. Once again, back to the first link, and that takes us, you'll see there's a couple of supports. There's one here and one here. This support is for this product, so I'm going to click there, and we'll go to BIOS. And the latest BIOS is F9G, which is what we have. That's all confirmed. So let me turn XMP on, restart. In fact, we can cheat a little bit and go to settings, update and security, troubleshoot. Is it troubleshoot? No, it's recovery. Go to recovery, hit restart now. It's not actually going to restart. It's going to bring up a submenu, which will then offer us the option of booting right into the BIOS. Troubleshoot, advanced options, UEFI firmware settings. Did you get all that? Now I won't have to push any keys. When it restarts, it's going to take me right to the BIOS without any buttons being pressed. Once we're in here, for some reason it's not in English. We can change that. Is it French? Welcome. We'll do XMP profile 1, which is at 3200. And we'll save and exit. Now I'm going to check to make sure I've got the latest video driver installed for the graphics card. And the system's going to take a minute here as it reassigns those memory values. So it's this first initial restart or post is normal for it to just be a delay. Don't freak out. Because if you set the wrong timings, it'll just stay like this and it won't ever change. But you need to give it time. Don't jump at it too soon. Give it time. Now we should be fully optimized. We don't have to go and manually set the memory timings or manually adjust the CPU voltage or any other nonsense we're fighting with on these AMD systems. And we'll go to, we'll check our drivers. So right now the NVIDIA driver I'm using, well, let's take care of that. It's unhappy for something. Let's dismiss that, turn that on. Ooh, it's quick. Look at the way it responds. All right, let's go to Crystal Dismark. I can't remember which drive I used. Did I use a Samsung? If so, I want to install the Samsung software. This doesn't tell me what drive I've got. Crystal Disk Info should tell me what I've got. It is a Samsung 970 Evo Plus. So let's get the Samsung software on there. Get the Samsung Magician first. That's done. That'll pop up, verify we've got the latest firmware, and also ensure that we're running in PCI Gen 3 by 4 mode. Drive details. Gen 3 by 4, firmware's latest version. Very good. So I want to change this NVMe driver from Microsoft to Samsung. So we'll run the driver update for the NVMe driver. And then this will require a reboot for it to take effect, which is why I wanted the Magician installed first. Man, that's fast. Ooh, ooh, I'm excited. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, yeah. And then we'll run Prime 95 on there too. We want to make sure that that Knoxville cooler is going to do a good job on that 9900 KS. But in the meantime, let me just double check my NVIDIA driver version. A couple different ways you can check it. I'm a bit old school. I tend to go to the device manager and just pull up the display adapter and then just look under the driver detail. And the last few numbers usually tell me what it is. Driver details. Driver dates from the 24th of July. It's not that old. I know there was a recent driver released today or yesterday, so there's probably something newer. Now, what this delay is right now when I hit driver details is kind of weird because everything's been snapping. Now I've got a delay. And I can see the hard drive activity light's blinking, so I don't know. It might have been doing something in the background. It looks like we might have been using 432. Let's see what the latest version is. Let's go to nvidia.com. And we'll click on drivers, GeForce drivers. And then we'll look for RTX 20 series, 2080 Ti for Windows 10 64-bit. Now, the question is, do I want the game-ready driver or do I want the studio driver? Now, I personally want the studio driver, so that's what I'm going to get because I want to use this in production for video. I'm not interested in playing games with it. So we'll download 45177, and I can look in my downloads folder just to see if, yeah, I didn't save whatever that driver was. We can usually bring the driver version up. Like I said, there's a number of different ways you can tell. That's a bit old school to do it the way that I did it here. We can bring up NVIDIA software themselves down here in the corner and bring up the NVIDIA control panel. And that'll also tell us what version of driver we've got, which says 432, which is more or less what I just said, right? I just looked at it a different way. And the thing I really like about computers is my freedom to do things my way. I don't have to do it a specific way to get to the information. So if I learned how to do it, 10 years ago, that still applies today. Whether or not it's more efficient, I can't tell you, but it's more consistent. Because as NVIDIA changes their software, they might change the location of that information. But the Windows Device Manager's been more or less the same since Windows XP. And I can get in there or heck, even Windows 95, really. It hasn't really changed much. And I can go through the same process I just showed you today. I could have done that 20 years ago. So we'll just go through the install here real quick. And right now it looks like, what do we have? About 1,654 people watching, and it's about to get good. It's about to get real good. So thank you all for watching. If you want to shout out where you're watching from, jump in the chat room. Let me know what country you're in or what state you are in. It's always exciting to see where people are watching from around the world and even perhaps what your local time is. It's about 20 minutes to 6 p.m. here in Phoenix, Arizona. It looks like there's a Windows update that wants a restart. Let's oh, that's on the streaming computer. That's not on the new machine. Very good. Fine. Good with that. Good with that. Close that. And let's just start with some basic stuff, real simple. Cinebench 1.5. We'll run some benchmark numbers here on the workload. This is a pretty quick test. I can't get over how quiet this thing is. Like, it's eerily quiet. And it's small. Okay, so our numbers on this test are 169.22. That puts us way up at the top here. Let's run the CPU benchmark. I'm sure that's going to be outstanding. Ooh, can you hear the fans cranking up a little bit? Yeah, 2127 again puts us right at the top of this particular list, which is old and outdated. Now we can close that and we'll go to R20, which is the updated Cinebench, and we'll see how it performs there. Ooh, this thing is snappy. Love it. I'm just clicking on stuff, and the minute I let go of the mouse button, it's already on my screen. So satisfying. So this only has the CPU test apparently, which is fine. You can see it's struggling. It's really struggling to get through that. You can download these benchmarks for free, just Google search, and run them on your systems to see how they compare. Almost done. So you'll see where we fall with compared to a Threadripper 1950X, which does a little better in that production work, versus the Xeon, which does twice as good as that Ryzen 1950X, and then another Xeon up here. And these are just some examples they give you. They're not the end-all, be-all of CPU results. Your results may vary. If we look at Crystal Diskmark, I want to see good performance coming out of this Samsung 970 drive, preferably on my reads and writes. I'd like to see the maximum, as close to the maximum as possible, which is maximum is about 3600 with PCIe generation 3x4. And you get between 3500 and 3600, you're right where you need to be, right where you pretty much can't go any faster. You saturated the ability of the technology to go any faster at that point. So Any sort of RAID configuration will not benefit you. It can only make you go slower on this level of consumer-based board. Now, where some solid state drives will hurt you is on the write speeds. The write speeds can be 2/3 of the read speeds. So on cheaper solid state drives, you might see write speeds of around 2,000, 2,500. On this sort of leader of the pack, the 970 Evo Plus, you'll see that the write speeds are nearly identical to the read speeds. Very impressive performance. Given that a mechanical hard drive moves data well under 200 megabytes a second, and I've seen mechanical drives move data from 80 megabytes a second upwards to 160, maybe if it's a modern mechanical drive, 180, and you can see how many times faster that is without any moving parts, much more reliability. Let's install TimeSpy. That's going to take a minute, so we'll wait for that to finish. Ted Rollins is 9:45 in Michigan. Yes. People shouting out from all over the world here. We got folks watching us in Dubai, New York, Rhode Island, Oklahoma, in the UK, in Los Angeles, in Washington, and Ohio, and North Carolina, and Tampa, Florida. Fort Collins, Colorado, with Texas, as well as La Rochelle, France, Algonac, Michigan. Kenny joins us from Louisiana. We've got more viewers in the UK, Buffalo, New York, more in Washington, North Carolina, New Zealand, Vancouver Island in Canada, Iowa, Poland, the Netherlands and Sweden, as well as Virginia, Spartanburg, South Carolina, Illinois, more in Michigan, Germany, Sun City, West Arizona, that's just down the street from where I am, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Whale Stevens joins us from Wisconsin, and Nunman 1962 is in Tennessee. Mitch joins us in Hanover, Pennsylvania. It's been a while, Mitch. Good to see you. That's a different Mitch, folks. That's Mitch Hammond versus Mitch Morrison. I got a thing about my Mitches. More from New Zealand and Denmark and Texas and Sweden and the UK. And let's see, there's Ron, of course, in Troy, Illinois. John Young joins us in Kansas, and Wayne Lawrence in Oregon. And Simeon is in Bulgaria. Siegfried joins us from Spain. And we got folks in Long Island, New York, and in Clinton Township, Michigan. Kimmo joins us from Finland. Alex is in Portugal. Rick Lakes joins us from Minnesota. Look at that. All over the world. It's awesome. So we're done with the install, but we're going to have to grab some updates. So I'll tell it to launch the product, and then we're going to grab the updates to TimeSpy, and we should see some amazing numbers. So to give you a baseline, the 1660 Ti card does about somewhere around the 6,000 score. The 2060 Super did around a 9,000 score. The 2070 Super, I want to say, does 12,000, I think. And I've never tested with a 2080 Ti before, so I expect a number more than twice than what a 1660 can do. I'm looking forward to a number greater than 12,000 based on numbers I've seen from other graphics cards. We'll multitask. We'll do a couple things here. Let it scan just to get rid of that little exclamation point down in the corner while it's downloading and installing the update. That's good. And then there'll be another 2 updates here. We'll hit update on that, let it install. And we'll hit install down here. I don't know why there are two. Then it's going to close TimeSpy to install. Now all the updates are in place. Hopefully this will be done here in a minute. I want this to finish. I don't want it to interfere with our benchmark results. And we don't have very much on this drive, so it should be relatively quick. And I can remove the flash drive. We should be done with that for a while. That's done. And now it's time to see what this 2080 can do. And while that's happening, it's time to feed the dogs. You guys hungry? Did I say food? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Is there going to be some dinner? Is there going to be some dinner around here? Are we ever going to eat? We're starving. All right, let's get some food. Let's get some food. Oh boy, what happened to all this food? Where'd it go? Did you eat all this food? There's yours. Jimmy got a head start. There you go, buddy. There you go. All right. Let's see, a couple contributions have come in. What do we have here? Chris Dobson contributes £5. He says, I'm sorry to hear about the problems with AMD. The frustrating thing for consumers is chipset standards are configured so they no longer are standard. Yeah, you said that. The standards aren't standard. Great. Freedom Flights with $9.99 says, I want to go ahead and get the A+ certification online using CompTIA. Are there any other certifications you would recommend? For example, Network Plus, Security Plus, etc. I don't recommend any certifications other than what your employer requires you to have. With that said, it's entirely up to you how you want to spend your money. Certification is a business. The idea is to get you coming back again and again to update your certifications and to imply that there's value to be had in those certifications. But the only value to be had in the certifications are one that your employer pays you for. Apart from your own personal satisfaction of passing tests, I don't know that those certifications are required or necessary. A+ is a good staple certification just to confirm you have a very minimal amount of computer knowledge that's been confirmed. But beyond that, it's if an employer is not paying you for your certifications, then you don't require them. They're not needed. Thank you for the contribution. What else do we have going on here? Flappity has contributed £10, says, get the fur babies a treat on me. Yeah, it's about cookie time. Thank you. Squishy with $4.99 says, I appreciate you. Thank you. And Ted Rowland contributes $5. And Nunman1962 with $35 says, thanks for showing the great build and benchmarks. That's great. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys so much for your contribution and all of your support. The kindness is rare on the internet. You know, there's so many mean people. There's nothing better to do to insult and judge, and they just take what they take as though they're entitled to it. They don't realize they're a guest here, And somebody comes in your house and starts insulting your carpeting or your furniture. How long are you going to leave them in your house? You know what I mean? Like, get the hell out of my house. So, um, I apologize that we have to deal with some of that, but they obviously don't run a business. They're obviously people who are very single-minded in the sense that they only see things the way they want to see them. And when you're starting to be held accountable for other systems to a point of, you know, maintaining your ability to stay in business, it's something you can't possibly, well, it's something some people can't really understand or comprehend, and their failure to comprehend it becomes very clear with their judgment that they just have no clue what they're talking about. So, unfortunately, um, people care what processors I run. Apparently, they care how much Coca-Cola I drink. And apparently, their lives are perfect. They have no issues. And so they've decided they're going to come around and fix mine. So, it's great. Some random stranger invites themselves over to my channel and starts insulting me. Thank you for that. And I'm sure I deserved it. I'm sure I said something about you and I provoked you in some way in a personal attack where that I had that coming and I should have known better. Yeah. All right, so what are we doing on the test here? Really good results so far. And you guys probably want a cookie, right? Is that what you want? You guys want cookies? We gotta get some cookies. Yeah? Yeah, is it time for cookies? Let's get some cookies. All right, here we go. And they're off. He's taking it outside. See you later. Got his cookie and he's going. All right, and our benchmark is almost done. Almost done. There we go. Benchmark is 12,812. I think that's the largest result I've ever seen, though it seems pretty close to the 2080 that I tested. I guess that makes sense. It's just a 2080 Ti. I'd have to run it side by side with like a 2080 just to see what the main difference is, but it looks good. I can't complain. I will anyway. And then we'll run Prime 95 and we'll see how this cooler is going to perform for us in a real world workhorse scenario that is totally unrealistic in the sense that it would be run for the period of time I'm going to run it. But let's bring up HW monitor and we'll start that right there. And then we'll bring up, let's see, where are we? There's our course, temps, and then Prime 95. I use 26.6 so I don't have to change the defaults. I just click OK. If I use a newer version of Prime 95, I've got to match those same numbers. We're already pretty hot with 72, which is a little surprising. However, let's see how it performs in the next 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm going to grab my timer and we'll get that started. So the timer will obviously be lagging behind. If the timer says 15 minutes, you know for a fact we've gone longer than that. And I certainly want to put the benefit on the test and not on the timer. So we're saying a package temp maximum of 75, which is a little worrying that it climbed up that high that quickly. But we do see the minimum temperatures were down as low as 36, 35. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it here. I prefer my temps stay at 85 or below in a maximum workload scenario, which is unlikely to ever be achieved again for a full 15 minutes. It's very unlikely, certainly for the work I'm doing. The streaming computer is only using 1/3 of 1% of CPU power to stream, and that's on the Ryzen 3900X. That's been real flaky for me. So I'm looking forward to moving the video capture card out of the streamer, and I've got an 8 terabyte mechanical drive that'll go in here that has all my video projects on it. And then I can copy over the OBS settings and install OBS on here along with Stream Deck software and those settings. And this thing will be good to go. And it won't work as hard as I'm working it right now. And so far, again, we're looking at, well, we'll see if it stays under 85 during the test. We've only gone like 90 seconds since I started the timer. So we're off to an interesting start. We'll see how it grows or if it stabilizes. Did you set the fans? No, I did not. I'm leaving the BIOS just plain, just showing you that you don't have to do that. CPU is probably still hot from the Time Spy test. Yeah. Sharon said you just ran Time Spy. Did I call it something else? It's live and unscripted. I might have been looking at something on the screen when I said it. You know what I mean? You know what I meant, so we're good. Hopefully it didn't confuse anybody. Robert, Rockin' Rob Radigan contributes $5. He says, after yesterday's frustrations, it's nice to have a couple of wins today. Time to do a happy dance, Carrie. Come on, let's see it. Great job. Well, no, that's with intention and design. I wanted to do something today that was going to be positive. I didn't want to revisit Threadripper or AMD, anything today. I need to counterbalance the frustrations with some successes, and then that'll help reinvigorate me to reevaluate those other systems, but under different circumstances where I'm not forced to deal with it. Right now, with the streaming computer, I'm forced to deal with it every day I want to go live. It's another problem. So it really motivated me to get this finally finished up. Sometimes that's what it takes. But thank you for the contribution. Mr. Spock with $5 says, Carrie, you're a very logical person when it comes to computer knowledge. Live long and prosper. Thank you, Mr. Spock. David Kane contributes $5, says, thanks for the birthday wishes on Facebook. I am updating my PC now. Thanks for teaching us. Right on, David. Happy birthday to you. A lot of birthdays today. Right on. It's cool. Appreciate you sharing it with us. So you guys rock. We're at just under 4 minutes on the test. Nicholas Egblini contributes $9.99. Says, finally, I've seen a computer that really is fast. It's what I've been looking for a long time. Blink and you miss it. That's a great fast machine. Thanks, Carrie. I'll tell you something else that's a good fast machine. This box right here, when I get this done, this should be faster than this one. Not by much. Using the 10700K, and what do I have? The Gigabyte Z490 Aorus Elite motherboard with the G-Skill Royal Z RAM, which is pricey RAM, but it's super appropriate for this build, and it's been rock solid RAM on both Intel and AMD platforms. So, while it's a bit blingy and a bit pricey, I think it's worth it just to have peace of mind and compatibility. Like it's just been working on everything. And the RGB is very muted on it, which I appreciate. And I know the temps on this are going to be nice and chilly because I'll be putting that overkill Hellower 360 all-in-one liquid cooler on it when an air cooler would suffice. So that thing should run nice and chilly. And mostly it's going to add some RGB and some more bling to this outstanding looking beast of a transformer, whatever the heck it is. It's very unique, and it's going to be a powerhouse. So it's not just going to be all looks, it's going to be beauty and brawn and brains. So I can't wait to finish this one up. I'm just going to wait on the replacement graphics card here. Like I said, I've got a 2080 coming. 2080 Ti is too expensive, and they're hard to find right now. So I know the 3000 series should be out within a couple of months, perhaps in the fall, and that'll reduce the prices of the 2000 series significantly. We'll see how manufacturing goes with the pandemic and distribution that may impact just how quickly it'll take for the current generation of video cards to become more available and cheaper. Supply and demand, supply and demand. So our maximum temp right now, we've hit 91C just for in the package temp. It's sitting at 81 now, but it had jumped up to 91, but didn't stay there very long. Core number 3 jumped to 87. Core number 4 is the one that jumped to 91. That's a little disturbing. I mean, we're only 6.5 minutes into the test, and I had a feeling if we were already hitting, 75 or whatever, so early on as we were, this isn't causing any harm to the computer. We certainly haven't throttled yet. However, this Noctua cooler may be a bit inadequate for a 9900 KS, and I was concerned because of how thin the heatsink is, but it's easy enough to remove and replace. I really don't want to put a larger cooler on that's going to cover up my beautiful RAM in there. And again, it would only reach these temps if it were running this hard for this long, which, I will be doing some video rendering, but that's mostly with Cyberlink Power Director going to be weighing in on the graphics card, not so much on the CPU. And the machine would probably run fine, but I'm not comfortable, honestly. I'm saying 94, 89, 97. Once we hit 100, we start throttling, and I don't think this Noctua cooler is going to cut it, which is unfortunate because I like how it looks in there, and it's pretty warm. It's a pretty warm cooler. So I definitely want to go with either a black cooler. I want to avoid a liquid cooler in here, even though there's room up there for like a 240 will fit up there. It's just more cables to manage. Much prefer an air cooler. So this is it's okay. It's not good enough for me though. So I got a feeling I'm going to be pulling that Noctua cooler off and replacing it. I wonder how the Scythe Mugen 5 would do on here. It's a much bigger cooler, but unfortunately I only have that in silver. I don't have one in black. The Pure Rock 2 I don't think is going to perform much better. And if I get a larger heatsink on there, it's going to overlap and cover up the RAM, which I also don't want to do. So I'm going to have to think about this and how I want to handle it. For now, the system is okay. Like I said, I won't be running it this hard for this long. The test has been going, it's just ticking over to 9 minutes, and we've hit 97 degrees centigrade on core number 2. And currently those temps are all sitting pretty good. Like if we look at our current temps all the way on the left, we're in the 80s, lower 80s. And so different parts of Prime 95 work different parts of the processor. And the cooler is doing its job. But if this heatsink was more the size of Scythe's heatsink, if it was about twice as wide, it would probably do a much better job and it would still look good in there. Or I could try adding another fan to the other side, but I still feel like the heatsink itself, it's just small. It's narrow. And I think that the 9900 KS is going to be happier with a bigger heatsink more than it's going to be happier with just moving more air. That's a theory. I really don't know until I test it. But a little disappointed in the Noctua cooler's performance here. But I did have it in the back of my mind that it seemed like it was running a little too well on the 10700K. But the 10700K actually runs quite a bit cooler, which is interesting, especially compared to the Ryzen 3900X. It's significantly cooler, and I don't know what the deal is there. But something for me to revisit. I would like to see the temps not hit 97 ever. I'd like to see the temps never break more than 85. That's my preference. Now, again, the throttling should occur at 100. If we scroll down and look at our speeds, we're keeping it at 5,000 the whole time. So, and that's across all 8 cores. Remember that. Most other processors that you're using aren't going to be hitting this speed except on 1 core. So we're hitting this across all 8 cores. That's what makes the KS so special. So we're at 11 minutes and 20 seconds. I'm going to let it run just to see if we can get any hotter than 97. Again, I can leave it as it is. It's good enough, but it's just not good enough for me. I don't know how to explain that. I could put a small liquid cooler like a 140 and just go from the block to the rear of the case. I'm not quite sure what kind of an improvement we might see, but again, I don't really want the pipes and the additional power cable. I much prefer an air cooler, be done with it. This is not going to be a showpiece in the sense like this is the showpiece over here, you know. This is just a nice looking computer. It's not a showpiece. So I don't know. I don't know. I have to think about this. What suggestions do you have for an air cooler that is black that won't cover my RAM? The Noctua NFP12 Redux 1700 PWM cooling fan. Well, that's just a fan. This here is not the cooler's fault. Oh, I'm not saying it's the cooler's fault. I'm just curious, you know, how it works in this scenario. That's all. It would be great if it performed well, right? How do you know until you test it? Neil's mentioning the links in the video notes are pointing to the Be Quiet cooler because that's what I had put in there. That I'll have to update the links because the power supply has been changed, the cooler's been changed, and the graphics card has been changed. Well, actually, no. This was the original graphics card that was going to go in here. Mike says the Mugen 5 is the largest that won't cover the RAM, but it's silver and I don't want the silver in it. Arctic freezer? No, no. I've worked with Arctic products. I do not like them at all. The Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro 3. Not sure what that one looks like. Would the Hyper 212 Black be any better? No, that would be worse. Joe says, try a second fan first. You might be pleasantly surprised. Um, I mean, I could. We've got the extra wire hangers. I think we have another fan header we can plug into on this board. We've just crossed over 15 minutes on the test. And you're right. I mean, until I put a second fan on it, I just don't think theorizing it that it's going to make that much of a difference. But until I try it, well, what about the Scythe Fuma 2 dual heat sinks? It's going to cover the RAM. I don't want to cover the RAM. Everybody's saying the Dark Rock Pro 4. Let me take a look at what that looks like. I'm gonna just let Prime 95 keep going. Torture the heck out of it. Torture this thing. Was it the Pro 4? Yeah, I think that's going to cover my RAM. The Dark Rock Pro 4 is so big, it looks like it's going to cover the RAM, and I'm trying to avoid covering the RAM here. Yeah, it's definitely going to go over the RAM. Big time. Big time. I mean, what's the point of spending money on nice RAM if you're going to cover it with your heatsink? It doesn't make any sense why anybody would do that. Second fan will lower 2 to 3 degrees. That's not enough. It's got to lower by 10. Catherine says you worked with that cooler and hated it. But how did I really feel? Mugen 5B. I've never seen the Mugen 5B. Let me see if that's available. Yeah, I don't see a 5B available on Amazon. How about just shopping? Does it appear? I don't see. So the regular Mugen Revision B, which is the regular just Mugen 5, is silver, and I need it to be black. I don't see a black Mugen 5. Not yet. So we did finally hit 100 degrees. So once it hits that, 212 degree Fahrenheit mark, it will start to throttle, and we'll probably see it throttling. Yeah, you'll see it dropping to 4,600. It's not maintaining the 5,000 so that it can cool down. And that's about as much as I think I want to torture it today. So we'll go ahead and stop these tests and allow the CPU to cool off. You'll see that CPU cools off really rapidly. Yeah, we're already down into the 40s. So that's not good. These are not good numbers. As I mentioned, those numbers will only be hit if you're stressing the CPU out at maximum. You'll see as I sit at the desktop, the CPU lowers down to 800 megahertz, and it will climb back and forth as need be for running processes in the background. And of course, at 800 megahertz, it's going to run nice and chilly. So doing things like streaming, it's probably going to stay down low, and it's not going to generate those kind of temps. The good news is the system stayed much quieter than the Threadripper build is at the desktop at idle. So as far as noise goes, the system is outstanding. Got to do something to improve that cooling, which ideally doesn't involve a liquid cooler and won't cover my RAM. So that's where I'm at. Yeah, we can shut this down. All right, guys, so that is the oh, Mike Ladd is suggesting the Scythe Fuma 2. I might have one of those, actually. I might have a Fuma? Fuma? I might have one. Let's see. Maybe not. Might be remembering it wrong. What do I have? You know what I could do? You know what I could do? It's tempting. I wonder if this will do it. How big is it? Oh, it's pretty big. Hello. Wow. Is it going to cover my RAM? Yeah. Rats. It's tempting. So tempting. What else do I have? I got a feeling this one's probably about the same size. And it's not much to look at. What else do I have? Gotta be something else. Pretty sure this is bigger than the rest of them. It looks pretty big. Seems kind of weird to put a cooler in this large into a case that small. Yeah, I got to get this down. It doesn't really seem that much bigger. It's a big box. Cooler is almost the same size, I think. It's that cooler versus this one. So the bigger box has the slightly smaller cooler. Slightly smaller. Well, that's a pretty good size. How's that gonna look? Oh. Well, that's only gonna cover half my RAM. I'll get to see some of it. On the other hand, this one lights up. Look what you've made me care about this crap. Yeah, that's gonna. Yeah, they're both gonna cover about 2 sticks of RAM from the looks of things. This one just looks cool as heck. But they're nearly identical in size. I'm not sure why the size of the box is so different. Marketing maybe? Tristan says, I don't recommend the Corsair A500, not nearly as good as Noctua or Be Quiet. The heat plane is not well machined, and it may protrude beyond the glass panel. Gary showing off his fanboy collection. That's funny. Yeah, yeah. There's a link for the upcoming Mugen 5 in black. Well, that doesn't help me today, though, does it? Unless I put a regular Mugen 5 on it just for now. When is it coming out? Redefines, da 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 da. This was published back in January and it's still not out yet. Doesn't say when it's coming out. Thank you for the link. At least I've seen it now. Is there any way you would publish a zip folder with all your portable programs? They're not mine to distribute. That would be illegal. But if you just use Google on those portable programs I use, you can download them yourself for free. Totally legal. I only use like 6 of them. It's not like it's that big of a deal. There's a black Mugen with no RGB. Let me see. Oh, it's not really black. It's got a black top, and I'm afraid it's going to cover the RAM. Yeah, that's the Fuma too. Well, at least the fans are thin on it, but it actually doesn't look like it's covering the RAM too badly. Looks like it's only going to cover the first one. Well, it's not much to look at though, is it? It's silver and black and gray. Like they couldn't pick a color? It's not doing it for me. I appreciate the suggestion, but this build requires a little something, a little more flashy. Like this is flashy. This is not so flashy, so we'll put this one in the box. Well, I guess that one kind of is flashy. It's a little more subtle. It's got the red here versus sort of the glowing red there. I don't know. I don't know. So the A500 didn't do well, huh? It's a surprise because based on the size of the heatsink and the size of the fans, it looks like it would do decently. Do I have anything else? Am I missing? I got a Ninja 5, but that thing will cover all the RAM for sure. I've got a H115i if I just want to throw a liquid cooler on it. Well, I got an old Kraken X40. That'll get the job done. It's not flashy though. Neither of those coolers is any bling. Kind of stuck between a rock and a hard spot here. What to do. So the cooler, and I want to emphasize, I want you guys to fully understand, the cooler that's on there is adequate. It would only be if I were pushing the system really, really hard for like 15 or 20 minutes. And even then, it wouldn't cause harm to the system, but the system, it would throttle and it would start to to slow down, and the task that I'm having it do would take a little bit longer, but depending on what that task is, particularly things like video editing, especially if it's a 4K 2-hour video project with tons of transitions and cuts, that could be pretty intense on the system. But for everything else I do, for browsing the web, checking email, live streaming, that would mostly sit probably well under 50 degrees C, 99% of the time. Mike Ladd says, when I think of Scythe, my mind automatically thinks of Mugen. Yeah, well, that's what I've shown the most of here. Chris says he's heard good things about the V8. Well, I suppose we can at least try it. I mean, I got a good excuse to try it now. What a mess that is. Really? That's the best they could do? Ugh. Cable nightmare. It's the whole reason I don't want to go to a liquid cooler. I don't want to deal with all this. You add that extra fan and you add the LEDs. You add a cable for the fan. You got to add a power cable for the LEDs. I wish they could have done it all internally and given me one power cable. Couldn't they have hidden this away? Couldn't they have hidden that away and just given me this piece? That would have been okay. Well, let's install it. Why not? We know the limitations of the Noctua. It's not the end-all be-all of coolers, or tower coolers, as I was hoping it would be. It is not. And of course, doing this with the graphics card in is going to be a bit of a challenge. I'm probably going to have to pull this graphics card out. So get to where I need to get. I suspect a Mugen 5 would probably do well. We've used the Mugen 5 on 9900 KSs before, and I don't recall there being an issue with it. Just don't like the color. Jason wants to know, does thermal paste cure after heating the first time and work better? Not that I've noticed, not enough of 1 degree either way. Sterling with $2 says, Cooler Master, do it. Well, yeah, I guess. Looks like it's easy to install, but looks could be deceiving. Let's see what this is like. I've never put one of these in before. I don't know anything about it. Got a lot of parts. Let's keep everything together on the Noctua cooler first. Let me grab the paper towel. We're going to wipe off this thermal compound off of here. And I also want to take it off of the CPU. Oops. The good news is that cooler is super easy to remove and install, which is always welcome. That being the Noctua cooler, I'm removing. I'm removing it now. Still have the back plate in there. It's definitely a good cooler. It's quiet, easy to install, doesn't cover the RAM, but it's also a bit limited. And I'm sure those things are all related. Where did my other little standoff go? No, it dropped down here somewhere. Where did it go? There it is. How these parts get into these little crevices that I couldn't force in there if I tried is really a mystery to me. I mean, I even tipped the case and it wouldn't come out, so that's talent right there. Come on. How do they do that? There it goes. Gotcha. Well, this is good. These Noctua coolers, I'll probably be using more of these in the future just because of how quiet and easy they are to install. Just not on that level. Like I said, it was running great on the 10700K. We didn't have any heat-related problems there, unless the temperature readings were wrong. Um, what do we got? Here's our back plate. One for AMD, which seems unnecessary. And one for Intel, which I guess it just adjusts up and down. These are not fixed. That's weird. But I guess it kind of self-adjusts, right? Why overthink it? Okay, back plate's on. That's not too difficult. LGA 2011 screws. I don't know what these are for. Interesting. There's some kind of weird rubber or plastic washers for something. Then they've all come off of the pad, and they're sticking to stuff in the parts bag. It's annoying. Perhaps they should have put this in its own little bag. We have a little wrench. Not sure how that's going to come into play. And we have some standoffs. And screws. Now it looks like, if I had to guess, it looks like these just screw down on top of the back plate. I've got thermal compound all over my hands here, which is really annoying. Like I said, that stuff's hard to get off. And it must have been just, I didn't fold the paper towel right and got it all over myself. You definitely don't want it on any clothes. Oops. Let's take a look at the documentation here. See what it says. V8 series, Intel and AMD. It's got me putting thermal compound on. That's the first step, really? I disagree. AMD, AMD, AMD. Nope. Intel. Oh, these little standoffs have holes, and we're going to screw these down. Right onto the back plate. That's easy. You can do that. That's definitely a different design mounting technique than I've ever seen before, but I like it. It's logical. I'll tell you what's weird is I can feel it tighten down and then it loosens up again as it's guiding those screws because they're on a slider and they don't lock in place. So it can falsely, give you the false sense that you've tightened it when in fact you have not. So that's not very good. Then what does it want me to do? I did that. Oh, you secure the bracket. No, that's interesting. They want us to use the small screw and secure the bracket to the bottom of the cooler before we install it. You go above it or below it. According to the picture, it goes at the top. And then which brackets are we using? Apparently that one. Let's see. I think it's going to go on like that. I'd say that looks right. It does look correct. So this would go on. How would this go on? To go on that way. That's kind of a funky way to do that. So that attaches the mounting brackets onto the bottom of the heatsink like this. And then somehow we're supposed to be able to get some fingers underneath that and tighten it some way. Is that supposed to be possible? How are we supposed to do that? Exactly. How am I supposed to get anything in between that? Oh, they want you to use this to get in there. Oh, what a pain. So that means all the RAM has to come out, the video card has to come out. That is just stupid. And if I take the RAM out, how can I put the RAM back in? I think this is going to sink before it's even sailed. That's not a good design at all. Like they've got the directions showing you doing it with the motherboard outside of the case, which makes sense so that you can get different angles. This isn't going to work, guys. Nope. I mean, imagine trying to get this driver in right here. I can move it that much, just a little tiny bit. If I pull all the RAM out, then I can have, I can swing the little wrench around. Then how do I put the RAM back in when it's covering up the RAM socket? In the picture, it doesn't show any RAM in there when they're doing it, so how are you supposed to get the RAM in after the fact? This doesn't make any sense. Who's this for? People that don't use RAM? I saved some money on my build. Put any RAM in it. But that's got to be one of the absolute worst mounting designs I've ever seen in my life. It's not going to be compatible with our build. I mean, they're suggesting that you can get at this side from this angle here, like remove the video card, and come at this side from here, but they're not really explaining how I'm supposed to get to this side with RAM installed. Like I can't really come in this way. I can't do it. That top right bracket or mounting point, standoff, whatever you want to call it, there's no way. It's not going to work. Not gonna do it. That's sad. What a terrible, terrible mounting technique. Cool looking cooler. It's too bad they screwed up the mounting technique. Well, it'll show up in a different build at another time. I mean, that's why I have these parts laying around after all, is for moments like this where I have potential solutions immediately available to me. It looks like, at the very least, I could throw a Scythe Mugen 5 on there just to get it done, but it's just going to come back off again until I have something that I'm happy with aesthetically. When you can't see the Scythe Mugen 5, when it's on a 200R, something like that, it's perfect. I'm running one in the streamer over here on the 200R case with the 3900X. It's quiet, does a good job. I'm just a little sad. I'm a little sad that the folks at Cooler Master accepted that mounting technique. I don't think anybody ever tried it. Or whatever board they were using, they didn't really have a high-end board, because the high-end boards especially are going to be very limited with larger heat sinks on the VRMs, and when your RAM is right there, you can't expect an end user to be able to accommodate your cooler. Your cooler's got to accommodate the user. And I don't know what these sticky things are, but they're all just stuck to each other. They're all pretty much ruined. Whatever they're for, I don't know what they're for. This cooler was a waste of money. The cooler might be great, but if the mounting technique of it is useless, it doesn't matter how what the sale price is or how it looks or even how it cools if I can't get it mounted. And it's not easily serviceable. Even if I could get over this, servicing this computer would be very difficult because of, like you saw how easily I was able to take off the other coolers. Even the ID cooling, which was not a good cooler, came off very easily. The Pure Rock 2 from, or Dark Rock, whatever it is, from Be Quiet, easy to put on, take off. Side Mugen 5, easy to put on, take off. The Noctua Tower Cooler, easy to put on, easy to take off. And then there's this, where apparently they think your whole build is designed around your cooler. Nope. Not gonna happen. What a shame. What a shame. So much thought went into the design and engineering of that cooler, and almost zero thought or effort went into the mounting technique. No thinking out of the box there. Just whatever it takes, make it work. Don't do it right. Don't make it easy. Don't make it serviceable. Just get it so it installs. That seems to be the logic in place on that design, which is disheartening. Let's take it 80%. 80% is good enough. We don't need to see 100%. If we can design it 80% good, then we've done our job and we can bring it to market and put our name behind it and let people gauge our quality for the rest of their life so that we can rush this out the door. No, that's not going to work. Back in your box. It's just not good for this build anyway. It'll, there'll be another build at some point where this will be appropriate. This is definitely not for this build. Not gonna do it. I think I'm gonna wrap it up because it's already nearly 7 o'clock in the evening here, and I don't feel like I'm going to get a solution in place within the next hour. And I don't really like what I've got to choose from. Like I've got an H115i I can throw on there. It's not much to look at. It'll get the job done. Aside Mugen 5 will probably get the job done, but it's not much to look at. I don't think the Pure Rock 2 is going to be enough surface area. The Hyper 212, definitely not. And of course, we know the Noctua is not working. The ID cooling and the other up here cooler, not enough. I don't think the cooling demands on the 9900 KS are that demanding. It's just that I'm trying to not cover the RAM. I could, Silverstone makes a really nice all-in-one liquid cooler for $100, 240 millimeter. I really didn't want to turn it into a light show. Of course, the H115i doesn't have any RGB. There really haven't been any problems today. They say we need a win. We had a win. The system runs great. It runs great. And I could have left the Noctua cooler on there. I just want to do it right. I want to do it really, really well, and I prefer to do it just once, which is why I want to stick with an air cooler, but not so big as it covers up that beautiful RAM. And, the side cooler will do it. I'm sure the Mugen 5 will do it. I really don't like the way it looks, with this case in particular, with this build, I should say. I know, I have some challenges ahead. Don Melildis, how you doing there, my friend? Good to see you in the chat. Just don't hook up the RGB. It's still cables, man. It's still paying for stuff I'm not using. I just rather not do it. I'd rather put an put a I'd rather put an air cooler on there. There's an old Kraken X40. I bet that would do it. But then I'm not on an air cooler anymore, and I'll have to replace it in a few years. This thing's been on my shelf a long, long time, so it's hoping it hasn't gelled up inside. I can't even reach it. It's way up there. Well, there it is. That's one way to get it down. Oh. All right. Oh, that's dusty. I'm sure that hasn't been updated. Well, it's all black, which is fine. Let's see, if we were to put this in the back, it will fit. I gotta visualize this for a minute. You think they gave me a long enough power cable for that fan? Okay. Oh boy, we get to hook it up to USB. If we did this way. No, it looks looks ugly. You gotta go this way. And then the fan would have to go on first. And the fan, actually we put the fan on this way, wouldn't we? We could go through this way. Yeah, that's how I would do it. That's how I would do it. I would put the fan on this way. So if this were to go on here, oh, I see what I did there. I should rotate this fan. I don't like the cables coming out of that side. So the problem when you're doing a build and you want a specific look is it certainly adds not only to the price, but to the level of detail that you've got to watch for that you wouldn't normally have to watch for on a regular, normal build. So I want that power cable coming off the top. They do give you the washers, and you certainly can use those. Um, it's not required. And that would go on there like that. I think we've got our solution, ladies and gentlemen. What do you guys think? Penny for your thoughts? To keep the back plate in place while you're putting the screws on, they put tape so you can stick it on. Ah, I haven't seen that before. And this is an old cooler, like I've had this a long time. Um, they're actually recommending the radiator uh, be on the outside with the fan on the inside, kind of the opposite of how I did it. The difference is I'm going to be pushing air through, and they've got a picture of it pulling air through. At the end of the day, I don't really think it's going to make any difference in the cooling ability. I think it's personal preference. And we would reduce the number of screws. And instead of putting 4 screws on, in other words, I put 4 screws to mount the fan and 4 screws to mount the radiator. If I had put the fan in the inside, and then I would only use the fan screws then to go through the fan and into the radiator, and then 4 screws would hold it all together instead of 8. But they also show that heat pipes facing down. I want my heat pipes up and out of view. I want them up. There's no reason for it to go down and block the fan and then swing back up onto the on the pump. So I disagree with the instructions they've laid out here, but that's just my personal preference. Wow, they give us a lot of different brackets here. Hey, where's my tape? Oh, it's in here. Gotta have the tape. Those little foam pads. Of course, I don't know how you're going to line this up just right with the back of the motherboard now that you're sticking it on there. And that's going to cause it to bend. Well, I guess not. These do stick out just a little bit. There's a raised area there, so I guess that's okay. They thought of that. Okay, well, I think this is what I'm going to do. It is after 7 o'clock. I'm losing a lot of light here, and I haven't eaten yet. And I've been going at this, well, for about 3.5 hours right now with this stream. And then prior, there was another 20 or 30 minutes I thought I was streaming when I wasn't. So I've actually been going a lot longer, plus all the prep I took to get ready to stream today. And I did get a lot of things done. I've got the power supply in here. I've got to get the liquid cooler put in there. We're really, really good here. Like software-wise, configuration, it's solid. It's just a matter of improving that cooling. This should be no big deal to slap this on. We'll run some tests on it, and I'll give you an update tomorrow. I think I'll finish this. I don't know if I'll finish it tonight off camera or if I'll revisit it tomorrow. It's pretty simple to put this on. And see how it performs. I think it should be fine. Like if this won't keep the chip cool, I'm in trouble. Like if a liquid cooler, even a single radiator, can't keep it cool, there's going to be trouble. And the added cabling here isn't too bad. We've got a USB cable and a fan cable. And the fan cable will run up here with these hoses up towards the top. So it should be well out of sight, out of the way. And so the cable management shouldn't be too bad, which is my main concern with the liquid cooler, as well as the maintenance. So I think that's going to do it for me for today. Thanks you guys so much for joining me in this little adventure and getting the Phanteks Enthoo Evolve case up and running with the 9900 KS. I could make my life a little easier by going to that Z490 board with the case, the 10700K processor. Like I said, that Noctua cooler worked just fine on there. So, but the KS is special, so it's deserves some special cooling. And if it means I got to postpone it a little longer, you know, so be it. And who knows if the when and if that Scythe Black Edition Mugen 5 comes out, may be worthy of testing on this rig. Though I might be spoiled, this is obviously going to be difficult to compete with any air cooler. So let me give a shout out to everybody who has contributed during today's live stream. Thank you to Holy Stones and Rusty Nail. Thank you to Sterling and Jason Baum, Nicholas Higlini and Robert Rockin' Rob Radigan. Thank you, Mr. Spock and David Kane, Nunman 1962 and Ted Rowland. Thank you to Squishy and Flappity. Can't make those names up. Thank you to Freedom Flights and Chris Dobson, Feral Sparky, Ben Laird, Antonio Kudo, Planet Cryos. Thank you again to Planet Cryos for another contribution. Winston Anglu, Paul Ware, Kenton Morton, Madi Yoel, Ryan, happy birthday again to Rain One Full, Shemp Asaurus, and Tom Jackson. Thanks for your 777. Ash Patel, Robert Rockin' Rob Radigan again. Thank you to Ollie and Patrick Rousseau, Sharon Idle, Ollie again, and Michael Dane, Jamie M., John Panarelli, Mr. Blackspoon, Chris Kingan, and our first contribution today from Ronaldo Torres. Thanks you guys for helping to keep me sponsor free. Not that I'm entirely sponsor free, or thanks to RoboForm offering 60% off just to you guys for this month only. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and thanks to all the viewers. We got 1,129 people watching live. Catch me tomorrow. We'll have an update on this, see where we're at. Maybe do a little more work on Conquer 2. I've got another 2 systems over there I've got to wrap up. I've got the Xenos build to finish. I still want to wrap up the Nuka-Cola build from well over a year ago. I want to get a couple of fans changed out, and it's pretty much done. It just needs some fans changed out and some cable management. It's a beautiful looking computer. And again, another limited edition processor. That Nuka-Cola case has the 8086K. If you shop around and try and find an 8086K, you'll find they're very expensive. Same with the 9900KS. These are collector's edition processors, and they run really, really well, and they're very expensive. And it's for that reason I won't update them. They're going to pretty much stay that way as collector's editions. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for your contributions. Everybody in blue, thanks for keeping it civil. We got some attention from some losers today, but you guys just wiped them out quick, and I appreciate that. And I will see you all again. Ideally, I'll see you tomorrow afternoon, unless other things occur. You never know. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.